Welcome back. Today we are making this delicious red velvet bundt cake. The first step is to make that cream cheese swirl that you saw in the middle of the cake. To do this, I'm whisking together some cream cheese until it's smooth, adding in some granulated sugar, and whisking that together until the sugar is fully incorporated. You can also do this in a stand mixer or with a hand mixer, which would probably be a lot easier than doing it by hand. Next, I added in 2 eggs and some vanilla extract. You'll see here there's only 1 egg added in the video, but I did end up adding 1 more, it's just it didn't get filmed. So once I whisked that together and the mixture was really nice and smooth, I added some all-purpose flour to help thicken it up. And this is going to help it bake up with a good consistency that's not too different from our bundt cake, so it's really important that you add in that all-purpose flour. Once the mixture was super creamy and smooth, I set it aside and then began to combine my dry ingredients. To do this, I'm adding in my all-purpose flour, granulated sugar, a bit of salt, and also some baking soda. The last dry ingredient that we add in is some baking cocoa. Once all my dry ingredients were in the bowl, I whisked them together just to make sure that everything was incorporated and evenly distributed. This is really important for your leavening agents. I set my dry ingredients aside and then went to work on my wet ingredients. I added in some buttermilk, vegetable oil, you could also use canola oil, 2 eggs that are at room temp, and then a little bit of vanilla extract along with the tiniest bit of vinegar. Now vinegar might sound strange, but it's important because it helps activate the baking soda that we used earlier. I also added in some red gel food coloring, and I'm just whisking this together and doing my best job that I can to incorporate it. It kind of looks scary, but don't worry if it's a little bit separated. I promise it will come together once you add in those dry ingredients. So I added in half of my dry ingredients here and I folded them together with a spatula until the flour mixture was mostly incorporated. Then I added my last bit of the flour mixture and folded it together until no flour streaks remained. You really don't want to overmix your batter, which is why I folded the flour mixture into the wet ingredients. Next, I heavily greased my bundt pan. You can see I really went to town there with it. Then I added half of my red velvet batter into my pan. Then I pulled out our cheesecake or our cream cheese filling and added it on top of that. And then with a little bit more of that red velvet batter, I marbled the 2 mixtures together. So I chose to do this because I wanted it really to look like a ripple that was running through the cake. But if you want more of a defined layer, you can skip this step. I poured the rest of my batter on top of this, and then I popped my bundt pan into a preheated 350-degree oven. I baked it for about 55 minutes. Bake time can vary based on your oven and your bundt pan, so just be sure to check it accordingly. Sometimes it can take up to 65 minutes. Once my bundt cake had baked and fully cooled, I leveled the base of it and I saved the crumbs, and then I carefully popped it out of my pan. Then I went to work on my glaze. To do this, I am just using some cream cheese that I'm mixing together with heavy cream. The mixture might seem a little bit thick, but it's okay. I added in a bit of vanilla bean paste just to give it a really beautiful look with those specks sprinkled throughout it. And then I folded in some powdered sugar. It might seem thick, but I promise once it's fully mixed together, you'll get this silky smooth texture. Next, it was time to cover our bundt cake with this glaze. Originally, I pictured kind of streaks of glaze all around the cake, but at the end of the day I wanted to pretty much add as much of the glaze as I could to the cake, so I ended up just completely covering it in the glaze. And while this wasn't the look I initially intended, I was pretty happy with it because it makes sure that every bite that you take of cake has some of that delicious glaze, and that always makes me happy. To decorate the cake, I used those red velvet crumbs that I'd reserved earlier, and I just sprinkled them over the top of the cake. And this is why I love bundt cakes. That's it, that's all the decoration, all the frosting. Now I get to cut in and enjoy. My mouth is literally watering rewatching this. You can see just by setting down the piece how moist it is. It is so delicious, especially with that glaze. I highly recommend making it if you're looking for a good bundt cake recipe, but I will let the cake talk for itself. Thank you guys so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed this video, and hopefully I'll see you guys again soon.